Going on, y'all? It has been a minute since I've done one of these lives, man. I'm excited to come back to this. This conversation, I've had different variations of it over the past few years, and I like to do it just because, like, we always, even if you know what to do, it is so easy to find yourself in an environment where it's like, I don't know, something don't feel right. I think there's been so many moments where I kind of woke up and I was like, I don't like where I'm at right now. I think the one that's like one of the biggest ones is because I was working at a place where I was like, okay, this is it. This is where I feel like I could retire. Like I've never been the person. I remember I was talking to someone from college early in my career. I was telling her about the new job I got, and she was like, "Oh, is this the place you think you're going to retire?" And I was thinking, like, "You crazy? I'm not working somewhere for 50 years. It's crazy. I ain't doing that." But at one point, I found a place where I was like, you know what? I like this. In fact, this place actually taught me a lot about this is where I kind of learned more about, you know, things like balance, like things that happen at home do affect you at work. So there's no real thing as a workplace balance, but it's important to always be honest with yourself. I was learning so much. I was growing in my role, getting better at the things I love to do. And then all of a sudden one day I woke up and I was like, you know what? This is not the place I thought it was. It's the leadership. I don't align with where they're going. I don't trust it. And I'm starting to feel like they don't respect my voice. I started learning about psychological safety real time. So all of these things happen at the place that I thought was like, okay, I could retire here. And at that point, I kind of had to make certain decisions like, okay, do I want to leave? If I do want to leave, how can I leave? And then finally, I remember thinking, like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna head out. I'm out. I'm tired of this. But it was not that easy to actually leave. So I'm excited to have this conversation with y'all. I'm joined by someone who I deeply respect. Every time I see her post, I'm just thinking, like, this lady is so smart. She is so intelligent. I want to be like her when I grow up. So I'm excited to bring her on. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the stage, Deja White. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. Can't complain. And I was resonating. I was listening to everything. I'm like, yes.
You heard? You heard?
Yeah. Now look, I
Yes.
never said I was like, I don't want to be a lifer. That was something that I actually actively said. And since then, I've never been at a place where I'm like, I'm like, this is a good place for you to start your career or end your career, but I've never thought about being there my entire career. So that's
Oh,
interesting.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like I feel like when you're learning, when you're like not in your career just yet, that's like the mindset. It's like, oh yeah, find a good job, a place you could go, retire, yada yada yada. But I feel like this new age thing, like um what's her name? Bozeman St. John.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a whole
she's there for a
conversation.
year. She's
Yeah,
there
she's
for a year and
gone.
gone the next.
She's gone. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I like that. I mean, shout
Pop,
out to my
pop,
current
pop.
employers.
Yes,
I ain't leaving anytime soon. Shout out to them. Shout out to them. We ain't going. We
yes.
ain't going. But yeah, but I'm excited. What's up to live? How you doing to leave? What's up? Thank you for joining. Yeah. So, that thought right there. Actually, I want to ask you about that, and we could get into
Yeah,
the full conversation. You see, you've never actually felt like I'm a for lifer.
yeah.
Um, did you just like out the gate when you first the job? You're just like, sure, I'm just here for a little bit, or like what? Take me through that mindset.
Yeah. So like it's interesting because I started my career off as a post grad intern and
Mm.
then I went into a trainee program. So like those like rotational programs that people do that's blowing up right now. That was sort of my journey, but like instead of rotating, I was on a team permanently, and it was temporary. And then they extended an offer to me, so I became permanent before my program was even over.
Oh wow.
Um, but my friends, they were even like, you sound like you want to be like a forever intern. And I was like, I kind of do. Like, I just like doing a bunch of different things. I was like, is that an option? Can I just be like a forever trainee, a forever
Mhm.
intern? And the answer, if anybody's out there listening, is kind of yeah. You can be a consultant or like a freelancer, and that, or the real thing is when you start doing those parental and maternal leave contracts, and
Mm.
that's like 6 months, 5 months. You are a forever intern if you can figure out how to hop from contract to contract. But I didn't know about that at the beginning of my career. But at the very beginning, I got spoiled. Like I started off in tech and I was like, ooh, what bagels and like my smoothies and shakes and like my salads. And we got workshops every day. And I got paid time off as an intern. I'm like, wait a second. I am so spoiled. And then after I left tech, I went into a media company it was like low key. Like you could tell they were trying to attract the new age, new talent. So trying to like kind of compete with tech a little bit, but they knew they were media, so they couldn't go too far.
Mm.
But we had like a Starbucks on campus. Like my friends would come visit, and they're like, "This looks like a college campus." Some people would come to work with pajamas on. I was like, this is like where I landed at the beginning of my career. And I was like, I can see why people become lifers here. But I kept telling myself, I was like, I cannot be a lifer. I know I've seen like what tech can do. I've seen the limitations of like the media industry already so young in my career. So I was like, I know this is a great place to start and a great place to end, but I cannot be here my entire career. I just knew it.
Mm.
So that was my mindset. But of course, I learned a lot, and I let curiosity like control where I wanted to go. Like I was having coffee chats like nobody else. I was doing like things like hackathons because I was a tech girly. So like naturally, when you're curious and you're like out in the community, you're meeting different people, you start to learn about different industries and like what's possible, especially if you're in a role and you feel like you're being limited a little bit, and you talk to
Hmm.
someone else and they're like, no, that's not like a problem in my industry or my role. Your mind starts to wander a little bit. So that's where my mindset has been. I just let my curiosity lead me, and that's been my driving force.
It's funny you say you like. I believe you said you were a tech girly, but you out here with
I'm
like a
still
whole AI software and stuff.
okay. I'm still a
Like
tech girl.
what's going on?
All right, I'm still a tech girly. Okay, let me talk about that a little bit. I always say that I have one foot in, one foot out. Like I'm not coding a bunch of stuff. I'm not like deep in Silicon Valley, but like it's a mindset thing. Like if
Mm,
you talk the lingo, if you're building systems and tools, even if you're not the one physically coding it, you're still a tech person. So yeah, I don't want anyone out there to think they're not a tech girly or a tech guy or gal or whatever, just because they're not coding the thing. So
okay, I feel it. It sounds like you don't want all the coders to come at you. That's what it
yeah,
sounds
I'm like,
like.
whoa. Yeah.
I feel that. No, that's real. That's real. Because you could say like you could be in marketing and say oh yeah, you a tech person, but you in
You
the tech
are?
industry, you know the stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Now
all the
look,
ecosystem.
yes. That's how it like the way that I like to look at it. I think there's the tech industry. So when
Hmm.
a lot of people say they want to work in tech, they're talking about the industry of tech. But every
Yeah,
business has something that's tech enabled, or they
they want
use
those tech
technology.
paychecks.
Yes, yes. They want tech paychecks. That is it. Because I worked in MarTech and media, and like my MarTech paycheck didn't match up with what the MarTech would have looked like if I worked at Google, you know? So,
Was not the
um,
same.
yeah, that is what it
Yeah. Right. I'm
is.
gonna find that Tech Mar. Where's that Tech Mar at?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's hilarious. All right, so okay, and I told you, I told Deja right before this that like we might have to throw out the whole runner show. We're gonna keep talking about the toxic thing actually because it is really important. But
Yep.
there's one other question. I think it actually like kind of plays into this whole conversation as well. Um, at a conversation once with the manager about growth, and I remember they asked me, do I want to be a manager? And I, I paused and I was like, I felt like I did, I had never like been asked this directly before. And also I was thinking like, okay, well, I don't know how to explain this for real. Like I can definitely be a manager. I like supporting like in my whole mindset of being a manager is I think different from like the kind of typical stuff. Like I like to be able to support people and take ownership of projects. Um, I don't like that stress that where you kind of become the company type of thing. And then also, if I don't align with certain things, I don't want to represent a certain policy and push a policy that I don't fully agree with. Honestly, I just want to be out here and making more money. So like, yeah, I can explain it better now, but I wasn't sure how to say that to my boss. So let me ask you this. You said you were like trying to be an intern for life, right? But when you think about career growth, a common path for growth and making more money is getting into management. So during your adventures in all these places, like what is your idea of growth, and has being a manager, is that something you were trying to do at all?
No. I don't like I love supporting people, but I knew early on in my career, I was like, I do not want to be a manager of people. If I'm a
Hmm.
manager, I'm a manager of content, of process, of whatever I've been hired to do. I manage that thing and everybody else leaves me alone. Like I don't I was just talking on another chat and I was like, I don't like office politics. And a lot of times when you're a manager or you lead a team, you have to deal with like interpersonal issues or challenges. You have to be the go between or middleman between like people who are above you and your team. If someone's underperforming, you got to step in to try to figure out why and like help them. So then you're doing your job and their job. Um,
Hmm.
Early in my career, I was giving managerial tasks because my manager decided to leave the company. And then they kept hiring people in. And I was the person on the team who knew how to do everything. Like I was project manager, I was like marketing specialist. And then we hired like contractors and they would like push them onto me. And I was managing their onboarding. And then like when someone didn't do something, I was like, ooh, I'm getting a taste of management. I don't like this. So like I knew early on in my career that I didn't want to be a manager. But
Hmm.
in saying that, I started to learn that there were other ways for career growth. So a lot of it is tied to titles. So like I mentioned, I started off as a trainee, then a coordinator, then a specialist. And depending on the company that you work for, those level ups come with like bumps in pay. But you don't have to be a manager. You could be an associate manager. A lot of times you don't have talent or people that you're responsible for. You could be an analyst. You could be
Assistant to the manager, trying to
yes,
pull it through.
assistant to
Okay.
the manager. Like you
Okay.
could be a strategist. A lot of times when you're like an analyst or a strategist, you're in charge of like a process, but not people. So that is
Mm.
the route that I started to take. I didn't realize the title things. I just read the job descriptions. I'm like, if it's saying that I have to manage people, I don't want to do it. If it's saying I have to manage an intern, I'm like, okay, an intern or a contractor, that's not that bad. But if it's like someone who's been at the company for a while and I'm coming in and I'm the new person, I'm like, I just don't like office politics. So like anything that's remotely office politicky, I'm like, no. I'm like, you hired me to like move this
Mm.
train forward. Let's keep it going. That's all I want to worry about.
Let's keep it going. Get that away from me. I don't want them
Yes.
problems, man. Okay. I feel that. All right. So okay, so that I think that's a well, I don't know if that's a perfect segue, but we're gonna segue into this first topic
Yeah.
because thanks for answering that, because that's giving me some of my own notes and everything. And so I'm like, okay, I'm not alone. So I appreciate that. Um but I was reading a stat, right? I like to look
Mhm.
at stats and numbers. I feel like they tell a story. There's
Mhm.
a stat that said approximately 19% of US workers report that their workplace is somewhat toxic, and they're saying it kind of harmed their mental health, right? I think that as you were talking, I was actually just thinking, like when you mentioned like your manager left and they gave you all this stuff, I was like, okay, they turned you to the black woman superhero, and so like that could add a lot of stress and toll, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Now also, I think sometimes well, it's not that, so I think like for a lot of people, there's like stages, right? Of like when they kind of like,
Mhm.
nah, this is toxic. Like there's things that are annoying. Like a lot of workplaces are just annoying. It's like, okay, y'all bothering me and stuff. But then there's like the toxic
Mhm.
stuff, right?
Mhm.
So, but I think sometimes it takes people a lot to get to that point where they realize that, hold up, this might be a little toxic. It might not just be me. So how do you identify whether or not a workplace is toxic?
Yeah. So the work environment that I was in, where I was given all of that work, I didn't realize that that could be viewed as a toxic work environment, because it was a good company culture. I liked the team, but I needed better boundaries. And I feel like in that work
Mm.
environment, if I would have set better boundaries, then the team would have rolled back, because they were just like good, nice people, honestly. But they needed to get it together with the hiring. That's what that was. I didn't realize, like, if you work in media, there's like whispers around that there are toxic work environments, especially if you do like agency type work and things like that. And I was like, I don't know what people are talking about. I've never experienced that until I did. And I was like, oh my gosh. And how I identified it, like, I had one conversation that was a little bit like strange. And I got on the phone with my mom, actually. Like, get on the phone with your elders and mentors. That is one way that you can identify it. And I was like, I just had a conversation and I got a bit of tough love. My mom said, what? Good people don't love you. And I was like, oh. I was like, okay. So I just kept an eye out on it. And then it just started to ramp up. Like, I got taken off of projects. I got threatened with like improvement plans. I was like, what is an improvement plan? I've never even heard of this. And I was like, all right, now I know this is a sign. I was talking to like a friend who had been through the entire improvement plan process, and she was about to be onboarded off in the company. And like, I was like, what is this? This is like a whole new world. I don't know what an improvement plan is. No one's ever in their life told me that I needed to improve on anything in the work environment. Like, but I'm also a rebel in the work environment that rubs people the wrong way
That's what you
sometimes.
needed to improve on. Like, why you out here trying to change it?
I'm a rebel, and I'm like, but what you're telling me is not really making sense. So I'm just not going to listen. So sometimes I'm a rebel. But that is not how I was coming off in this particular workplace. So I was just it was interesting. But yeah, so sorry, I'm going off track. Identifying, talking to elders, talking to mentors, and then paying close attention, not having rose colored glasses. So like, if someone's like, yeah, we need to put you on an improvement plan, red flag. Normally improvement plans are like documentation to let them know that they had the conversation, and like, you're probably about on your way out the door, maybe. Conversation, like, you start to feel it in your body. After one conversation I had one time, like, I felt like I needed to like throw up. I was like, why is my body reacting like this? Like, I was like kind of jumpy, and I was like, am I imagining this? Knowing what state you live in too. Some states you can record your conversations and you don't have to tell the other party. So if you feel like you might be in a tense work environment and you don't know, then like, record the conversation and let a friend or family member listen to it and say, hey, I've been approached in this certain type of way. I'm just trying to make sure I'm not like misreading this communication, how it's happening. So I've done that. And like, I mentioned being taken off a project. So like, if you're taken off of projects and they don't tell you why, that is them being controlling and like not being communicative in the workplace, especially if that is what your main job is to do and you're getting work taken away from you. So that's a red flag. People talking to everybody else besides you about you, and then it coming back to you, that's a sign of toxic work environments. Divide and conquer tactics. So like, if you normally work as a group or a team and you're brainstorming and working on projects together, but higher up says we're no longer doing that. Everyone for themselves, every man for themselves. That's divide and conquer. So like you are not talking to your teammates and you're not collaborating as closely as you once were. That's a red flag. Like this just it's just like think mean girl bully or mean guy bully in high school. Like every type of like tactic that they might do is what you might experience if you were going through a toxic work environment. And then
Mhm.
someone said something on LinkedIn one time, and they said something about like never going to a second location. And I didn't realize this, but this does happen a lot. If you're in a toxic work environment and you've had a heated conversation on the phone or in a meeting room, and like the person wants to take it offline and go to like a Slack message or some other second location, if they are trying to get you to a second location after they've already berated you in the first location, then you're probably in some kind of like narcissistic, controlling type of
Mm.
situation so that they can remain in control of like how you
Their
are.
image and stuff, or your image.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then what else? Y'all got me going back in the
Yo, you
bowl.
got a whole we got a whole list, y'all. We like I
I
feel like
mean,
we got it's like a bingo card. We need to put a toxic workplace bingo
I'm
card. We
like,
could
look,
collaborate on that.
somebody is probably experiencing this, but ooh, another thing is like if you're having like a face-to-face conversation on like a Zoom or something, and like you decide to turn your camera off, and the person's like, turn your camera back on, and they're insisting that you turn your camera back on, it's because they're like feeding off of your like energy of being in a lower position in the moment. So
Mhm.
like I'm telling y'all, I'd never experienced any of this. And like as I was going through this, I was reading articles like I was talking to my mom one, and she was like, that sounds like a narcissist. Like every time I would tell her things, and I started looking up like the characteristics. And look, if y'all start to do research about the experiences that you're having, you're probably in a toxic work environment as well. But like I started reading articles. I was like, what is a narcissist? Like, what are the signs in the workplace of a narcissist? Like, I was going deep into the rabbit hole. And like one
Mhm.
article I read, it was like it's really hard for a narcissist to like change. So like if you are in an environment with a narcissist, it's better to just exit the environment and leave because chances are they may not change. So after I read
Yeah.
that, my mindset just like switched. I'm like, all right, I'm in like leave mode. But yeah, at the time that this was happening, I was living with family as well. So they pulled me aside and had like a moment, and I'm like, are y'all like having an intervention right now? They were like, we can tell you like your job, but like you're not the same person. My mom
Oh,
like started
wow.
tearing up a little bit, and I never really asked them like what had changed about me, but I felt like I was becoming a little bit more irritable. Like I was really jumpy. Like I wrote a post on LinkedIn the other day about how I was like suffering from indecision. And part of the reason was because I was in a toxic work environment. Because when you are, a lot of times you're constantly trying to be performative because you don't know what's right and what's wrong, or which you might get your hand slapped for too sometimes. So like you're in a cycle of indecision. You become moody. You're always strategizing about like ways to protect yourself. You don't know who to trust in the workplace. It's just like a lot. Like
Ooh,
it's just
man,
so
that
much.
there, that not knowing who to trust,
I'm like,
that
who
is
do
so
I
real.
trust? Who has your
That is
back? Like, it's
mhm.
just so
So
much.
in that
Yeah.
moment of not knowing who to trust, and actually, real
Yeah.
quick, actually, speaking of trust, let me shout out to the people watching and appreciate y'all trusting us with your time and everything. We're already shouted out to Lee earlier. We're gonna shout them out again to Lee. Crate, what's up with Crate? Y'all, just completely random, but y'all, he has an incredible Twitch stream that he does.
Okay.
Check out Crate Dig on Twitch. I think YouTube as well. Um, yo, just you got a quote. Had a quote from
Okay.
Saval. Nobody told me I needed to improve. Love that energy. And y'all just did a
Yeah.
whole collab earlier today too. I might check out
Yes.
that replay. And then another one. Shout out to the YouTube fam, y'all. By the way, at some point, I'm probably just gonna like log out of LinkedIn for like 2 months just to focus on YouTube. Just
Okay.
throwing it out there. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, my shit was one said, I love this topic. More people need to see this so they have strategy and know what to do. That's what I'm talking about, right? We're trying to
Yeah.
so I think this is like another thing I wanted to talk to you about, right? So there's like I feel like there's a couple stages, right? Of
Mm,
like being in a toxic workplace, right?
mhm,
There's the identification, which I think is a
mhm,
huge part of the battle, and then there's the whole decision as far as what to do, should I stay or leave? But even in that part, you're still there, right? And
mhm,
whether or not it's like surviving that.
mhm.
Regardless if you're going to leave, unless you're going to leave right then and there, be like, I'm out immediately, you're good. But the whole process of leaving and finding another job, you still have to survive all of that, right? So you
It
were just
does.
talking about not knowing who to trust. And I think that's a
Mhm.
huge part of it, right? This whole show, the reason I did this whole show, Working While Black show, is so that people can kind of hear these stories that others have experiences. Because I think the biggest part of like dealing with being in like a narcissistic relationship, like intimate relationship or work relationship is like a it's a me problem or I'm the only one experiencing this. But like what was that process when you kind of started to feel like you weren't sure who to trust? Did you eventually kind of find someone you could talk to about all of this?
Yes, but like it was also a cultural difference. So I
Big
would say
part.
some people have thicker skin because of the environments they grew up in. So like yes, I found people to talk to, but some people would give me blank stares. Other
Mm,
people, it took me a while to tell them this, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know you were going through all of that." And like, so yes, I would slowly come out and tell different people about what I was experiencing. Because at first I was like, this this can't be real. Like this feels like fake vibes. Like, really, is this person serious right now? But yeah, it you just have to slowly talk to people. So like you don't want to trauma dump. You don't want to go into a conversation. You want to just lightly mention things that might be going like you just start saying things like that.
mm,
Um like work relationships with the person that is like doing the toxicness in the work environment. Say something like, during your conversations, do y'all talk about this? Do they pull this out? And like once you start to hear their experience, and if it's also bad, you kind of trauma bond, which is not good. I don't believe in trauma bonding at all, but
mm,
like you just start to see that you're not alone. You start to see that other people are also having challenges and they may not know who to trust either. Um, and then you also have to be strategic about who you pull in. So, like, if there is someone who is in a higher position than that person, that's an opportunity for you to talk to that person because it'll eventually get back to them. Like, if you decide to skip all of that and go to HR. So, like, I saw a TikTok once and this guy was talking about how HR actually works. Like, if you're having like a problem on your team or department, you go to HR. HR is out of the loop. So, they're going to just ping it back to whoever's in charge of that department. So you might as well go to the person who's in charge of the department because they probably don't know what's going on. So yeah, that is just the
yeah.
strategy. Like you have to find advocates. And then once you realize that you're kind of stuck, a lot of times it feels like you're stuck because you kind of are. But if you have advocates, you can have more frequent conversations with them so that you have someone to lean on. And then if you are stuck, the best thing to do is keep other people looped in to like never be alone with the person who's causing the toxicness. So like no one-on-one conversations. And if it is, make it short.
Mm,
Um, like if you use like Google or something, you can like see who's in a meeting before you join the meeting. And if that toxic person is the only one in the meeting, don't join it until more people join. Like
Oh,
I
that's a
just
pro tip. You can do that in teams too, actually. I think
yes,
you can.
and
Yeah,
I'm
you
like,
can.
I hate that I had to think this way, but that is how strategic I got. And I'm like, if I'm in a Slack, I'm like taking screenshots. That's another sign.
Mhm.
If you have to take screenshots of conversations that you're having and
Might
putting
be
it and
toxic.
fouling it, like you're in a toxic work environment. So,
Right.
like anything that goes above and beyond just like normal communication and like getting your job done, if you have to be super extra about it, you're probably in a toxic work environment. You need to find some advocates who you trust, and then I started having coffee chats with other teams as well in the company, because I'm like, I
Mhm.
like the company, the whole company's not bad, it's just like this one person has bad behavior and no one's checking them. And I'm like, I know I'm not crazy, other people see that they're a little cuckoo and off, but like no one's saying anything about it. I'm like, okay, this is what brings companies down, honestly. But like, I just let it go. I was like, okay, I figured out they were a narcissist. It probably wasn't going to change. And I just started trying to plot my exit first within the company. So talking to other teams, figuring out what they do, figuring out if they were hiring. And then if I started hitting a dead end, then I looked outside of the company. So like talking to
Mm.
other people that I've worked with in the past, like always like start with your inner circle and then go outward. So like talking with other people I've worked with in the past, asking them if they knew anybody. People were like, I was getting DMs in my LinkedIn too from like recruiters. So talking to those recruiters, seeing what they had, talking to past recruiters that I've talked to before, like it was just it was just like different things that I was looking for. And I know, and like I felt like when you're in a situation like this, you feel like people may not know, but like when I would talk to certain people who were in on the team, um you can see a look in their eyes, like they kind of know what's going on, but they don't know what's going on and are not going to bring it up. So it's just,
Mm.
it's a whole mess. So like
A lot going on.
it's a lot. It's a lot. And I think the best cure is to honestly leave a company once you've had a bad experience with them. I was talking to a friend one time and he was like, there are millions, hundreds of companies out there. Like, no way in the world you should get hung up on one company because there are so many that exist. And I'm like, you know what? I like that mindset. Like, so long,
Yeah. You
farewell.
know what's funny? I remember when I used to and this was real. I was being honest. Like when I used to be on like job interviews and stuff, and they'd ask me like, "How soon can you start?" I'd be like, "Yo, I don't want to like screw all my coworkers over and stuff." And so like I want to get a little time so I can kind of close things out. But like now, someone asked me that, I'd be like, "Shoot, man, I'm gonna put in my 2 weeks PTO real quick, and I'm out." Because like I realized that like I feel like previously is like I don't know, you just become so close. I think sometimes it is that trauma bonding that ends up happening. It's like I don't want to be like piled more on top of it, but like once you leave a place, it's like it becomes history. I will say every
Mhm.
time I leave a workplace, I end up having some like nightmarish dream about working at that previous place.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, which is kind of crazy. But it's like after that, after you're gone for a little bit, it's just like a distant thought. Like there is, I think
Mhm.
sometimes some like things you got to get over. Like I honestly, I think I'm still working through some like uh things I had to do to survive a previous someone who
Mhm.
was like supervising me and the stuff that they would do. And I was like, man, and it's like, and now I'm like real time like remembering like, okay, I don't have to act like this anymore. I could actually
Mhm.
do this and that when you're in a positive place. So there's like so many different things you have to do to like train yourself just to survive. I'm kind of curious, anyone watching live or also the replay, if you're catching this live replay on YouTube or LinkedIn or listening on like Apple, Spotify. On Spotify you can leave comments. On Apple you're gonna have to DM me, but or find me on social or something like that. But I'm very curious about your experiences working and what you had to do to survive, right? Something that I think is important even if you're on the way out, is to always like show up the way you want to show up, still putting in boundaries in place. And Deja, you made a post recently Ish. You make a lot of posts, a lot of good
I
quality
do.
posts. But there's one post in particular, right? It was about how you show up to work. So I'm kind
Mhm.
of curious for you. When you're ready to dip, how are you still showing up to work, right? Because I think sometimes you don't know when you're gonna dip. Like, are you still
Yeah.
giving it your all? Are you only giving 10%? Like, what's something that you like to do?
Yeah, I think I am wired in a way where like my name is going on something. So I'm like, I need it to be good. Um, so I still show up. I'm like working for a company, not this person. Like they don't like one thing my like I talk to my parents a lot. I have a really good bond with them. One thing my dad made clear, he was like, he told me in the beginning, he was like, you don't have a manager, you have a supervisor. Like they do not control you.
Mm,
They don't control you. They're just like supervising the thing, but like they don't manage you. Like you manage yourself. And I'm like, okay, that is what I lead with. They are supervising a project, a team, and like they yes, they are the person who like knows the goals, knows the things, but like my name is on the line, not their name. Like I'm trying to like just because I had a toxic in like a situation with them doesn't mean I can't reach back out to all the other teammates that I've worked with at a place in the past. Like you want to leave like a good spirit, a good vibe. Like even if your vibe is down, like everybody else on the team didn't do anything to you. So like why are you showing up negatively and why are you not giving your all to the work that you're doing? So like
mm,
that is the way that I look at it. Like no one controls me, I control myself. And like you were saying, like you build up a rapport with your team, so you want to keep that rapport up. um but also I think the more you work and the deeper you get into your career, you realize that like you're representing yourself. You also get a little less empathetic. I think empathy is really important, but like you're like, dang, like we were talking before we even started, like we have battle scars, like we're prepared for battle, like at this point we're like, look y'all, it's time for us to retire from this particular battle. I'm sure you understand, I'm out.
wow.
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
real. That's real, man. One day we got to like do that'd be a funny skit, like showing all the battle scars. Like, oh yeah, I got this one. I had to
Oh my
like, I
god.
stayed late for 40 hours straight one day
Oh
or
my
something. I
god,
don't
still
know.
stay late. Oh my gosh, working past the time. Also toxicness. Don't be working too much.
Man,
You're
I
not saving
remember
lives.
you're really not, unless you a doctor. Stay late, please.
Okay,
Don't
yes.
don't
If
call
you're a
out mid surgery.
doctor, if you're a nurse, but like if you send in newsletters, if you building a pitch deck, who life are you saving? The
Right.
sales
If you want
team?
online chat, they could come back, close it.
Just
I
close it.
remember my first job out of college. I remember I was like, because I don't know, at that point, I really valued, sounds so crazy to say, really valued working hard. But I would stay, like, I was definitely always the last person there, stay till 8. And people knew that. They knew because they could see the time when I was working and everything. And there was a couple days where I would come in late. And I remember one person said, like, hey, you coming in late. I was like, I know, but hey, I'm also here till like 8, getting a lot of stuff done. But then I started to
Mhm.
get kind of reprimanded. I remember like I was like, well,
Mhm.
I'm here all the time, more than you. And they just wasn't having it. It's kind of stuck on that. So it's just like little things like
Yeah.
I think something I learned a little later on. I sound like an old person, a little later on in my journey. Um, just about capacity, right? Because people don't really always respect your capacity because you kind of respect it yourself. But like those boundaries, I think are one of the most important things ever. Um, and if people really testing that capacity, then it's time to leave. Now, I years ago there was this post I was trending on LinkedIn, or this trend on LinkedIn. It was like people were creating content around quitting your job with grace, or no, quitting your job, I think, in general. And so I created a
Mhm.
video about quitting your job in grace, and I kind of gave people like three things that they could do to dip without losing yourself. I mean, you could always flip the tables if you want to, but I was like, if you don't want to do that, here's some things you could do. So I'm kind of curious, like for you, for someone who's they've identified their toxic workplace, they decided they're trying to dip. What's the best kind of things they can start doing right now to prepare themselves to leave?
Yeah. Well, first focus on collecting your wins.
Mm,
So like if you built things, if you made good relationships, maybe have some last minute conversations and coffee chats with people. You don't have to tell them that you're leaving, but just like, have some wrap up conversations. Collect all the things you've worked on, and then try to leave whatever you're currently working on in a good place. um I'm with you a little bit when you're like, you don't want to leave a lot of work on certain people. So I like to tie nice bows on things. Like, how can I
mhm.
make sure I have like standard operating procedures for all the things that I was doing? How can I
Yeah,
make sure things are closed out? But then after that, it's like not much that you can do. All you can do is like wrap your stuff up, have your last minute conversations, and then put time on whoever's calendar. If the toxic person is your manager, then like skip that person and then go to the next person on the team. Or if you feel like you can't trust that person, just go straight to HR and be like, hey, it's time for me to go, I'm wrapping it up. They'll let your team know if you don't want to let your team know.
they
But
will
it's
let them know.
best, yeah, but it's best for you to just like find a person of authority on the team and let them know. But that's it. Like once you quit, you don't really have to explain yourself. Like some companies will do exit interviews, and they'll say, "Hey," it's normally an exit interview with like a head person on a team and then an HR person.
Oh, yeah, I be lying on those.
Yeah,
I'm just like, yeah, listen to my, I don't care anymore.
yeah,
Yeah, you know, nothing's gonna change. You ain't gonna listen. So
yeah.
yeah,
But like the normally an exit interview, they're like, is there anything we could have done differently? Is like, why are you leaving? And you don't have to say anything. Like I'm like, oh, I'm trying to work on myself, and I just need to take some time. Like that's a
hmm,
blanket statement. You don't need to go any further in detail. People don't really need to know your business. So like that's it. Wrap things up, have your final chats, and dip.
yeah.
That's it. That's
I
all.
I like to leave. Just like I don't like to burn bridges, even though
Yes.
I like even if it's a place I never want to go back. I always feel like, just in case like things don't work out, I'm like, shoot, I might need to call back. It's like last place I remember, like there was like a whole celebration on my last day. Oh, wait, can you hear me?
And then something after that.
Oh, okay. Wait, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, we back. Y'all recording live from across. Where are you at? You're in the Midwest, right?
I am in the
The
Midwest.
Midwest. Shout out to the
Mhm.
Midwest.
Mhm.
We have to do a whole other conversation about that journey too. Just like because that's
Yeah.
just kind of cool when you're explaining that to me. I almost packed my bags, but
Oh, come on. I'm always doing some adventure type stuff. Most people are like, girl, what are you doing? Midwest? What? What's
right,
there?
right. Yeah, I'm at a point now where it's like, sure, they got Wi-Fi. I'm good.
It's strong. Look, my Wi-Fi is strong.
Man, I feel you. Sure. I actually don't even remember what I was saying. Oh,
Oh,
you
not
know
burning.
what?
You don't
I
like
was
burning
actually just tooting my own horn, actually,
bridges?
just like the last place I left that they were just, celebrated me on the last call. And I
Okay.
felt the love, actually. I did feel the love, even though people I didn't like. I was like, I appreciate the love. Um,
Not the people you didn't like.
well, okay, hold on. Not that I didn't like, it's just the people that
You didn't
cause
vibe as
problems.
much. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I like everybody. I'm a
Yeah.
likable person.
Okay.
I appreciate all humans for being human.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, sorry, that just really threw me off. But yeah, I think sometimes it's like I don't know what it is. I think it's like not necessarily Stockholm syndrome, but also a big part of not leaving is just like I mean, honestly, similar with like relationships, toxic relationship. It's like
Mhm.
knowing that it's okay to leave, right? Kind of have those
Mhm.
conversations. I've had those conversations with myself several times, and it's like I guess when you said before that you're not a fan of trauma bonding, I was like, what? But I feel like that could be some of the symptoms of that too, right? Like not wanting to leave your team, wanting to make things better, be the change, and all that stuff. Um, for you, being someone now where you are joining to lead projects and everything like that, do you ever like kind of feel attached and want to stay afterward?
No.
Instantly, like
I
you talk
know,
about.
I
Oh,
know my purpose. Like I talk a lot about like knowing your purpose and your why and why you're working on things. So like I am a builder. So like when I'm coming into an environment, a lot of times I'm on really small teams. Like I'm one of the first people to join a team that has just been stood up. So like I look at my purpose as a builder. I am not an operator. I don't want to manage the train once it's running. And I don't want to plug holes. Like if something's breaking, I'm like, I'm here to build so that it doesn't break. And if it's
yeah,
like things that can be easily fixed, let's fix it. So like we're not constantly. So when I was working at one company, they said we would be flying the plane as or building the plane while flying it. I'm like, no, no, ma'am, that is not, I don't want to do it. Let's build the plane and then fly the plane. So like that is me. Um I will say I did used to get attached. I won't say that I never got attached to the work that I was doing, because when I was doing work that I really really enjoyed, I was like, this is my vibe. I found like people I can work with. It was like a young, like go getter type of environment. I was like, oh, this is my environment. And I just like, I like actually could like use product. I consumed the product. So I felt tied to it. But then when I started experiencing like, things that wasn't vibing with me, I'm like, all right, I can't
mhm,
start tying. I got to go back to the spirit that I am, the builder. So
the
like if I feel
builder.
like yeah, I'm like, I feel like I treat jobs and experiences like games a little bit. I'm like,
Mhm.
my work is not done yet. Like I get a sense and a feeling when my work is complete or when that level is complete, and I'm like, all right, it's time for me to exit and move on. Like I've built everything that I can build here. I've helped the team as far as I want to go with the team. So now it's time for me to exit.
Mm. That's funny.
And a
So are
lot.
you ever concerned about like I think in like maybe like 2021 during the whole great resignation and stuff, I started
Uh-huh.
to realize actually no, after that, when it was like the layoff season happened, I started to realize like, oh, the whole purpose of having a job versus entrepreneurship is job stability. But that
Mm-hmm.
stability could be taken away at any point in time. But I think there is still this kind of comforting sense of stability when you're getting a when you're on salaried. Are you ever concerned about not having that?
No, because I've experienced a layoff and I've experienced not having a salary and I've
Okay.
experienced getting a contract.
You
Um,
unplugged from the matrix.
yes, I've done like, I'm like, once you've experienced everything, nothing scares
Mhm.
you. So like layoffs already happened. I went through my period where I was really sad. My mom was like, "Girl, volunteer and get over it. Like you'll be." She didn't say it like that. She was a little bit more empathetic, but like her vibe was like, "Go figure out who you are beyond work.
No, shout out
Go
to your mom. Yeah.
volunteer. Go to it." My dad having to sit down. He's like, "I've experienced a layoff too. It'll be okay." So I'm like,
Mm,
having people in your corner that you can talk to.
mhm,
I will say, like, I'm reading a book right now called The Good Enough Job, and he talks a little
mhm,
bit about like jobs that are just good enough and how we shouldn't be glorifying work and like putting all of our self worth into work, or trying to achieve self actualization, which is just like finding your purpose almost in work. So like after a layoff experience, I started listening and reading books like that. I started volunteering and getting out in my community and just like rediscovering who I was. So now my purpose is a little bit stronger. I'm like, now I look at work like it's fine if I'm only doing a certain stint. I started building my own things. So like building my AI tool, and like I have my blog that I run. So I like have other things that's not tied to someone else's dream, because when you work for another company, it's someone else's dream you're helping come true. It's not
mhm,
your dream. So like figure out what your dreams are, and it doesn't have to be tied to work all the time, but just like put your energy into something else that you own or that you control, so that like when a layoff happens or like when you don't have salary right now, you're not like sad time. um But then there's the practical side of it. What do you do for money? So you have to be strategic and creative.
Facts.
So like for me, I looked at things like substitute teaching. Like literally every single city is struggling to find teachers. Go be a substitute at a school. They will pay you. You will get hired. I became like really obsessed with like no interview jobs. So like jobs that like they need, the demand is like, or the supply is so low and the demand is so high that like they will hire you. So like a no interview job, for example, would be a substitute teacher. You don't really need to go
Hmm.
through an interview process, depending on your state and the school. But like when I signed up to do it, there was no interview. Like it was onboarding immediately. And I was like, oh, wow, there's a such thing as no interview jobs. Like it's so stress free. You follow their directions so that you can get onboarded and then you sign up and you go. And
Man.
I'm like, that is, and then depending on your state, this particular company provided like a lot of people don't want to leave their companies or quit because of benefits, but this particular
Hmm.
substituting firm offered benefits. So I'm like,
Okay.
I get confused
We
on
in.
my schedule. I get money. I may got a budget a little bit differently, but like once you experience it and you pick yourself up and you figure it out, then you're like, okay, whatever. Like work will come again. Um, this won't like most things are seasonal. It doesn't last forever, but it does require you to take action. So like if you get laid off or you get fired or you quit and you do no movement, then you will be stuck and you won't have salary and you might go without benefits for a while. But if you're constantly moving just a little bit at a time, like I like to say volunteer first if someone's really sad, because it is a really sad thing to go through when you
Hmm.
experience like a layoff or you quit, because you're shedding an identity. I say volunteer because you use your hands and you meet new people, so that's networking, and then you get introduced to like new organizations that may have full-time positions. So like if you like what you're doing, that is an opportunity for you to like test drive maybe a future job. So I'm like,
Yeah.
you just got to get a little bit creative. And it's like really not the end of the world. Before you got your job, you didn't have a job, maybe. So like you figured out how to get that job so you can figure out how to get another job and another job and another job. So like that's what I say.
That is such a good point. At what point you didn't have that? You figured it out. You could do it again.
Exactly.
Yo, you I always like to ask people like what are their cheat codes for career growth. You actually mentioned kind of two of them that I've mentioned before. One is volunteering, right? Like I don't believe in like necessarily working for free, like that's something you should do, but it's more so like if you're going to know how to leverage it, right? And you can volunteer in the area that you want to be in. One, you test it out, see if you even want to do that. And then two,
Mhm.
is that is real job experience. But you also mentioned networking, and also I just love the whole like I've used a video game analogy too, right? So I just love that too. But there's another cheat code actually. I don't even have to ask you. Um, there's a cheat code. There's a site. I don't know if you heard about it, Deja. It's
What's it
the AI
called?
career Copilot. It's this whole
Okay.
They have AI powered
Okay.
tools. You get an AI powered career coach. The
Yes.
pricing is real affordable. So yeah,
Yes.
y'all. This is Deja's thing, right? Deja created this for
Yes.
people. You got there's a whole free. I always love when I see a free plan because it's like accessibility, and there is a paid
Yes.
plan that's also still accessible to be honest, but that's also
Yes.
perspective based. Um,
Yes.
can you talk to us a little bit about this before we head out? Because I just love
Yeah.
highlighting people who are in this AI space right now. And also, it's like a resource that people could use right now. Whether you're on the job hunt, trying to leave, don't have a job, this seems like something that anyone could use. So, can you talk to us through a little bit about this?
Yeah. So this idea came to me last year. It actually started off as like a chat bot. people kept messaging me. Like people would say, "Can you look at my resume?" I'd been through a layoff in the past, so like I was like, I'll look at people's resumes, and then I got a flood of resumes, and I was like, dang, I can't look at all these resumes. It's just me.
Stop.
I was like, stop. Okay. So then after that, I was like, okay, how can I like scale me? Like, what is a good way for me to be supportive of people? Because I've been there and I know. And then at first it started off as just a chat bot, similar to what you might find on Chat GPT. But I trained it to think like me and how I approach my career, and giving advice to people when I do coaching. And then I tested it with a graduating high school class, and it was like a
Ooh.
bunch of different messages and like what type of college and my resume, my career path, and like there were teachers using it, and I'm like, teachers. I mean, the teachers are trying to get out of there too. So
Shout out
like,
to the teachers.
I could see the back end of all the different type of questions that people were asking, and I was like, okay, I think I need to create a platform, because a chat bot is cool, but like it's better visually if people can click buttons and move things around. So this is what came out of that experience. I developed an AI career coaching chat. So like if people enjoyed the chat format, they could still use it. But a lot of people needed help with their resume. So I created a resume analyzer so that they could they could analyze their resume against a job description. An interview coach, like I was a mentor for a program, and they needed mock interview help, and I was like, I can't do this all the time. So I'm like, I'm putting the interview coach in my tool, and that is where people will be going from now on. So it's an interview coach, and they can choose whatever industry they're interested in, and it will generate questions based off of that. And then the career pathing tool. A lot of students, they're like, I go to career fairs a lot, and they're like, I want to be a nurse. And I'm like, all right, we're going to put nurse in there so that you can see if nurses are even in demand in the city. So my career path tool will tell them if a nurse is in demand in the city. And then if you no longer want to be a nurse, it'll give you see the little tree, it'll give you like different options of places that you can go if you no longer want to be a nurse or you want to explore other things within the industry. And then it also can change based on state. So like if you say you want to be a nurse in Atlanta, it'll give you options of places you can, or different career paths you can go down. But if you want to be a nurse, say in the Midwest, they may not have the same type of demand for different fields. So it'll change based on your state. Maybe instead of, I don't know where nurses can go. I can't think on the spot, but like instead of one
Atlanta.
career path, it'll send you down another one based on the city or state that you live in. So it's been a journey. This is so fun. It will continue to evolve, especially as I bring in colleges and like workforce development agencies to start using it on their different populations. But I'm excited for it. Like the workforce is so bland and boring. So I'm like, how can I make it more fun? I'm like, how can I make it more fun? And like, I've been doing like career blogging for a long time, but after a while, it's like the same type of advice. You want to stop talking about it, do something about it. So this is my way of like creating a tool that does something about it. Oh, and I will say that like, if you are on the job hunt, I created a free GPT agent in the Chat GPT store as well, called the job description decoder. And I added like a BS fluff rater system to the tool. So you can drop job descriptions in there, and like it will tell you how much of a BS job it is, and if it's important, and if it should even exist. And it will help you make decisions a little bit better in the job market. So yes, I'm having fun. I love doing
Okay.
stuff like this.
I'm guessing if rock stars in the job description, the BS meter gonna go crazy.
It might. It
Yo,
might.
that's hilarious. All right, yeah, no, that's really cool. That's really cool. I got more questions about this thing, but they're gonna have to be some offline questions.
Yes.
But
And
yeah,
then,
no, I
oh my
appreciate you.
gosh, wait. Wait,
Oh,
wait, pause before we hang it up. I did recently create this thing called the Respect Zodiac.
oh,
And yes, and it's really cool because it uses like traditional like moon, sun, and rising, but it describes like your respect styles. So find
mm,
my LinkedIn. I'm Deja White on LinkedIn. I'm gonna put my finishing touches on a quiz, but I think this will start to help some people in the workplace understand their work boundaries and how they best show up. It was very helpful. Like for me, it was like, you don't like fake people in the workplace. Like when you go through negative situations, you have to retreat a little bit, think about it, and then come back and then drop the bomb on them. So I'm like,
mm-hmm.
ooh, I'm finding out so much about my like respect style. That's even different than like
Oh,
my work style or my love language type style. So it's really cool. And I'll keep iterating on it. You know, I like to create random tools. Yes, this is it. This is it. The respect zodiac. So
okay.
I'm an octopus, a cat, and an owl.
Okay, the OCO. That's cool. Okay, okay. Respect. That's interesting. Knowing
I
what
respect
respect, because respect does mean something different to everybody, and also I think,
zodiac.
yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting.
See, I got you thinking before we even hop
Yeah.
off the call. You're like, oh my gosh, what?
Yeah, a sneak peek. Oh, so this is a world premiere that she already posted about, but it's a world premiere. No one's ever heard about it before this live. Wow,
Yay.
that's amazing. Ignore all the people reacting to it. This is cool. All right, so you said you're creating this. When do we get to use it?
Yes. Ooh, I don't know, y'all.
Coming
I have to
soon.
turn it in. I'm gonna turn it into a quiz. But yeah, there's 6 different respect styles. And then your top 3 gets placed into these different categories. So your core value, your essential need, and then your expression style. So your core value is like the thing that you need the most. So for me, it's emotional honesty. Like that's why office politics drive me insane because I'm like, just say what you need and say what you need is how you process things. So for me, it's space and autonomy. Like I hate micromanagement. To like this is so true. I'm like I cannot do management. That's the fastest way for me to dip. And then curiosity and listening is how your expression or your respect comes off to other people. So like when I'm having a conversation with people, I like to lean in, I ask a lot of questions, I'm listening. So this is very true for me. So I'm like, dang, I was like, other people need to experience this. So I'm going to create something that's probably like a quiz, and then I'll lay out people's like respect zodiac so they can learn how to show up a little bit better in the workplace and
Mm.
then tell other people how to show up for them. And you can use this in like relationships as well, like with your significant other. It's really important. So you're like,
Mhm.
it like respect language is way different than love language. Like you got to respect people's boundaries and standards and values and things. So I'm excited
Okay.
for this. This will be
I
fun.
see I see what you mean about one foot in tech, one foot out. Cause Deja's about to be a whole relationship guru. All right. Tonight's
Oh my
conversation
god!
imploded. Deja White's zodiac room is about to pop
Oh my god!
open. Y'all. Who you gonna scam?
Oh my
No, I'm
gosh.
playing.
I know. I was like, dang. I was like, I'm gonna have to bring some psychologists in here to like make this thing
mm,
official. Yeah,
yeah.
it's really interesting. I really like, I've never heard anyone talk about like a respect language or a respect style. So it's an interesting concept. I'm a noodle on it a little bit, experiment with it.
We're gonna noodle, and then when it's ready to pop in the break room Buddha, we're gonna see. Okay. I'm
Uh-huh.
excited.
You
I'm
will be one
excited
of
for
the
this to
first to
pop
know.
out. Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. I appreciate your time, Deja. Anything else you want to share with the people? You got anything else in like the, behind your back or anything under your what you not behind your back,
Look,
under your sleeve?
I
What
always
you got?
have something going on, so just follow me on LinkedIn and you will be there real time. But for now, no. Career pilot.com is where you can use my AI tools. Breakroombuddha.com is my my first career blog. So all of the things that I've experienced is probably on that blog. And then stay tuned for the Respect Zodiac. That's gonna be fun to make and like share with the world.
I like that. All right. Well, I
Yay.
appreciate you. For everyone watching live, appreciate you joining the replay gang. I love y'all too. Make sure y'all jump in. I really want to hear y'all stories, right? This is a conversation between Deja and I, but it's really a whole conversation with everyone. Y'all are a part of this as well. So drop your stories in the comments. And if you have any questions, if you don't want to publicize, because honestly, this whole conversation can be sensitive if your experience is real time, feel free to reach out to me. Might want to reach out to Deja because she got the answers. She could direct you to the places. She got the chat. She
I've
got
been
this. She got
through,
that.
yes, look, I've
She
been
been
through the
through
war.
it. She been through the war. But yeah, hit her up. And if you want us to do a live, us or someone else, or you want a live or a topic you want to dive into, let me know. This conversation was like a requested one, so I love doing that because I could talk about whatever I want, but I really want this to be beneficial for y'all and where y'all at too. So I love hearing what's going on in your world. Appreciate y'all. Stay safe in the workplace. Don't lose yourself. If you feel like you're losing yourself, it's time to get out. And I will catch y'all next time. Peace.
Bye.